Hey, how about that?
Wow. Now we have five, but two are blocked on my screen, and I can't hear Loren.
So Tim's gone completely. Loren forgot that he muted himself. Um,
Loren
There
was
we
kind of
are. We're
doing the
good on
gold.
that.
Loren was doing the goldfish thing with that.
so,
We are live with 3 screens on the live show on Facebook.
hey, Loren, why don't you restart the broadcast? Reset your browser, restart the broadcast. Because I think,
Yeah, I did one. I mean, right now, as it is, the 3 of us
hey,
are
there we
here.
go. You're perfect.
Yeah, we're here.
Robert, you good?
I have
Uh,
two.
But are we
boxes.
still freezing? And
No, nobody's freezing.
No.
Nobody has been freezing
oh,
on mine at all, except for one brief moment when everything kind of went
now,
out and came back. So
now it's back to it. Interesting.
Yeah, interesting because there's 3 of us here, but there's 2 extra squares on my window that said that they're being blocked. So if we
right.
could, Tim, tip back out and tip back in again.
Can we do 10
And
if that off air? You'll then be back in the green room, and then.
I did do that already. I already kicked us off once. All right,
Oh, here
Tim's
comes
coming
Tim
in.
Peter. There he is. Now I see Tim
Was there?
and I just
Yeah, but
muted
it's
him.
not. But it's not blocked.
It's not blocked.
No, it's not blocked.
So, Lauren, have you tried to stop this broadcast on those two?
I'm going to do it right
center
now.
squares?
I'm going to stop the broadcast on those 2, but nothing's happening. No, I can't stop the broadcast on the extra 2.
But when
And
you
Tim
do when you
isn't
do
coming
click the
through.
button, you freeze. Just
Oh, good. Oh, that's always
Yeah.
nice.
yeah.
All right,
All
technology.
right.
Love it. Love it. Hey, Ed, everything's going smooth
Yeah,
for
so
your show, man.
let's talk about Flip.to then. And if you guys can't hear me, well, that's probably a good thing, right? So
He was trying to,
I figured go a little bit different than we did with Holly's presentation, so that way we don't have to see your YouTube, Lauren. Flip.to's got great videos. I can post links to them, and the audience can use those links. So it's in our blog. So show that. Oh, and it says Lauren Gray posted it, even though I
Lauren,
did.
great posted. Dang.
Huh. That's interesting, Lauren.
Yeah, I guess it's by the account name and not by the actual host name. See,
Good to
we're just
know.
learning all this new technology. That's great.
What is that little icon there? The little.
It looks like somebody with an iPod.
It's Lauren. You guys didn't know that Lauren was in one of the original iPod commercials?
Oh.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Tim, I have to agree.
so what I
Okay.
figured is since you were all familiar with Flip.to, I'd do a high level overview of what Flip.to is, what we're about, and then just let's have a conversation. Does that sound good?
Perfect.
That sounds good because please start with Tonga.
So, important thing to note is the reason the company is called Flip.to is because it's a really short URL. And
There it is.
so we are our own URL shortener for our own posts. But what is Flip.to? We're a marketing platform for hotels. We help hotels reach people worldwide organically through their guest, and we lead those people down appropriate paths of conversion. And so with Flip.to, a hotel's guests will introduce them to an enormous global audience of friends and family that are perfect for the hotel's brand. So one of the great things is as humans, we tend to talk to people who are similar to us and be friends with people who are similar to us. And because of that, if you look at what most people's followers are, except for Rock Cheetah, which is anyone, everyone is what I meant to say. Because of that, that this person being a guest, when they share to their friends and family their experiences about the hotel and everything, there are other people inside their network that are exactly similar to them, which means they will make a similar decision. So you're reaching a really targeted audience. And then from there, we take those friends and family of guests down compelling, conversation paths and appropriate conversion experiences, driving a really big impact for hotels. So if you look at what we do, we tie a lot of things together. So we bridge web experience, email communication, and then content generation, site experiences, all together in a way that engages guests to encourage them to share their excitement about their trip with a hotel with their friends and family, and then take that bond that that guest has with their friends and family and get them to use that bond to create a bond between the guest, friends, and family and the hotel. And that works because guests have gigantic reach. Individually, they don't. You know, the average person we see come through our system has about 300 people in their network. But when you look at Flip.to and you see the fact that over 16% on average guests share, so 16% of a hotel's total guest base sharing 300 people, it turns into hundreds of thousands of people reached. When you look at all the good news Facebook keeps doing for us, where they keep making friends and family posts more important than business posts, that also means the majority of that audience sees it. It's about 35% of your friends will see a post that you do. So, you know, it's not only better reach, we actually know it's reaching the audience. And then from there, we bring that audience back to the hotel's site because, as you know, we believe that you should engage and build relationships with people in your controlled environment. We learned that from Loren's YouTube last week, that, you know, if you leave it up to someone else's environment, weird things show up in the side corners.
I'm glad I'm a benchmark now.
And then, you know, and then the biggest thing is we also recognize that this audience we're interacting with on the hotel's behalf is someone who's yet to decide to travel. So rather than, you know, just showing them a hotel's website with Book Now, we actually inspire them with stories from other guests, stories from their friend. We introduce personas at the hotel to build a relationship and, you know, take them down the path of first becoming a warm lead and then down the path of becoming a guest. So, you know, we're dealing in very top of funnel here. And that's important because Google and Expedia and all of these players, they're not spending a lot of money before someone decides to travel. Most of their marketing spend, most of the brand's marketing spend, and almost all hotel advertising effort is to compete at time of transaction. So it's a very different type of marketing initiative that's trackable to room nights and drives just massive ROI for hotels. And so there's a video link that I put up, and I will put it up again. And when I say I mean Loren. That gives you a nice understanding of what the process is, where the process happens, because it does integrate into the entire communication path with guests. So we interact with guests on the hotel website, in the booking experience, in email, in the hotel's existing email communications, and then in, you know, really rich experiences that we create for the guests to interact with post-stay. That's Flip.to.
So
How long?
In the fact-checking department, since Holly seems to be lagging. So you said massive ROI. What are some example ROIs? And this was not a staged question.
Yeah, no, but it's actually a really good question. So we actually, we're always aiming for north of a 20 times ROI with our customers. But actually by customer segment, so mega resorts, we're generally high triple digit, low quadruple digit % return. So, you know, 900+% return on spend. Right. And we track our ROI in the most cleanest way possible. So that's the other tricky thing is anyone can throw out an ROI, but what you actually have to understand is what are the metrics they're using to get the value. And so our metrics of value, first of all, we put 0 value on the reach, which if you look at every other form of advertising, they're telling you reach is worth this much, reach is worth that much. Where we actually look at value is in direct unique visits of friends and family coming back to the hotel's website, a value of warm lead, you know, because warm leads are very valuable. And there's actually been a lot of case studies on what the lifetime value of a warm lead is. And we actually calculated half of what the going average of that is. And then the revenue value of the rooms. And what's great is with Flip.to, our average user spends about 10 minutes a week. So even when you apply time discount and when you apply everything else, the ROI still works out to be incredibly massive.
Right.
The other part, Flip.to way back, I had the privilege of finding out about Flip.to years ago when I was speaking down in Miami. It was a presentation about it. And at the time, Flip.to was a lot more about just connecting your booking to expressing it on social platforms. Like once you've booked, you would share what you've booked and share that offer that you took advantage of on your social platforms. how to go from just something just as straightforward as a solution of connection to, I mean, I've had the privilege of talking to you over time. My mindset has changed as to the methodology of using social, just from what you've been talking about, and how I now have such a critical look at companies that just are trying to sell and trying to push product, and they're missing the whole point of the value of social engagement and the building of the relationship, the warm lead, as you refer to it. How did Flip.to develop from just solving a solution like that to now being almost like a vanguard in the concept of proper social media usage? I mean, that had to take some like self-evaluation, I would guess, or something inside.
Well, it was always on the roadmap, but you have to start somewhere. And we started at the easiest point, which is the point of when someone's finished booking. So they've put in, what dates they're staying, they put in all this, and they've hit book now, and confirmation page comes up on the booking engine. Think about the psychology that you're in when you do that. Most people are already thinking, I either have to tell someone or I want to tell someone that my trip is real. Like, your trip's not real when airlines are booked. Your trip's real when you know where you're staying, right? So because of that, that touch point was the easiest, lightest touch point for us to get going with hotels. So, getting guests right at that point, introducing them before we even show them the confirmation page, introducing them with, hey, share about your upcoming trip. We'll give something nice for you to use while you're on property. And it's usually some type of on property spend. So like, we'll give you 10% off if you go try out our restaurant. So it's really, it's a thank you, but it's in order to take advantage of it, you got to spend, and then introduce them to the idea of you're going to share your experience with your friends and family, which will actually give them access to a insider offer, which is really a hook offer for hotels. It's nothing any different than what they use in their standard marketing. It's just positioned differently. And the reason we put a hook offer in versus like really being obsessed with a specific offer is when a friend or family member of a guest claims an offer, it's good for 6 months. And the reason for that is most of the people we're talking to, travel isn't even on their radar. They originally clicked on their friend's post because they were curious about what their friend was doing. We start at that point and work them down the path of claiming an offer for a future stay, opting in so we can communicate with them, and then we nurture them to a booking. So that's great. That's a really easy concept. But then we looked at, how can we get better at nurturing? And in order to get better at nurturing, you have to get really good at personalization. So, okay, so let's look at how we can make these things really personal and really magical and all of that. So we looked at, okay, what do we need? Well, first of all, we need content, right? And so the key to personalization is having enough content to be able to put different types of content in front of the same person and see how they react. All right, well, hotels don't have enough content. They underinvest in imagery, they underinvest in videos, they don't write a lot of written content. I mean, that's why there's market managers at OTAs that write it for them. So we wanted to solve for that. And we're like, all right, so whose content would be the best content to use anyways? Guests. Let's go experiential. Let's like show what the guest experience really is. So we built a process to gather that content. And, and for us, we didn't want Instagram pictures. One, because when we looked into using hashtag campaigns and using services that go and find photos on the internet, it's a huge legal gray area in copyright law. To the point where some of the major companies that are in partnership with Instagram, their platform actually fundamentally violates Instagram's terms of service. And so there are, so we're like, okay, scraping from social feeds, no matter how you slice it, even if you put a comment of, hey, can we use your photo? And someone comments back, yes. And even if you do a link to legal, that's going away eventually. Like, government will catch up, law will catch up with those practices. So we're like, that's not the way to do it. So we looked at it as, all right, so hotels like to do photo contests. Let's build the correct approach to a photo contest. So we built a process that guests get invited to after they check out. That's on the hotel site, and that process takes them through first collecting from them a short and sweet quote. What was the best part of your stay with us? Anything you want to write, it's free form. And then letting them submit a photo, but we frame it. First of all, we show them other photos that have been submitted in the contest, because people are competitive. People are doing this because they want to win. And then secondly, we let them take it from different locations. So they can send us their photo using their Facebook library. They can send us a photo using Instagram. The difference is we get the full version that they originally uploaded rather than the scraped version you get on the web UI. And then they have to agree to legal terms that actually gives the hotel full right and ownership of all content. And so this is a huge difference. So the other problem with scraping and using hashtag campaigns for aggregating content is you can only use them in a widget on your website. You actually don't own the rights to repurpose it into any other forms of communications or commercial use. So you can't put them in an email. So we needed to make sure we built a process that got hotels full ownership, felt really good for the guest, because in anything we design, everyone has to win. So needed to feel great for the guest. It was a understood process. There he is, Tim Peter.
Hey,
you see me now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what led us down building what we call photo advocacy. So we built collection of content and then immediate use of content. Because what we started looking at when we looked at what a photo with a quote is it was a full story, because it was content with context. So then we just looked at our normal formula. What's more valuable, the story or the actual storyteller? So we built processes to get the people who were submitting their stories that once the hotel says, yep, your story's good, we're going to let you compete, then they're going to tell that story to their friends repetitively for up to 90 days. And it's gamified to do that with them. So also through building all these touches, we said, hey, this is a huge opportunity to end on a higher note with the guest. So we built a lot of what we call magic design into the process. So you submit a photo to a hotel's photo contest using Flip.to. If the hotel picks you to compete in the contest, you get this wonderful communication from the hotel. The whole branding of that communication, it's not the hotel's branding. Yes, it's present. The main branding of the communication is your story. And looks like it's handmade, but it's actually on the fly built by the platform. And it's, hey, we love your photo. We love your story. We're so glad you stayed with us. We've already given points to your photo because we love it. Now go rally your friends and family. And then we get their friends and family who also vote. First of all, voting is an opportunity to try to convert people to being interested in the hotel. So our voting process is not just come and hit vote a bunch of times. We actually designed it in a way that slowly works on you into, hey, look at this amazing experience your friend had. Oh, and by voting, your friend gets 5 points and you unlock an offer for yourself. You have to register to vote, but you can say you don't want an offer. Well, everyone who says they do want an offer, now we not only captured a warm lead, we captured a warm lead with intent. Right. Because the offer is framed that it's only good for a short period of time. So these people are telling you, hey, I can be convinced to travel soon. So then it grew into a bigger engine. So, we needed to get this out to hotels. We needed to learn about it. The photo advocacy has actually been on the market for over 3 years now. The first year was what we considered beta. It was with specific properties that we wanted to just learn everything we could learn about it. And we've now got it to the point where for every 100 guests that you invite to enter a photo contest, you will end up with 12 fully baked stories.
Wow.
That's great.
Wow.
So, we've gotten it dialed in. So now what we're working on is filling out the rest of the platform. So what you're going to see coming over the next 60 days with Flip.to, because we work in very tight process, is getting to a point where people who are engaged in advocacy with a hotel and their friends and family are kept in an appropriate, constant state of communication with the hotel. So rather than doing generic blast emails to these people, you're always lightly touching them with very sensible touch points. And it may not be email. It could be the next time they come to the website. The website will be specific to them. So we're getting into this whole idea of always having the right conversation with the right person based on their behavior. and what else we know about them, and using whatever point in relationship you are at with them. So if it's still very much your friend is the glue, great. Then all communication is from that touch point. If we successfully get to a point where you've explored enough that we feel like your friend's no longer the required glue, it's the persona we introduced at the hotel, then communications switch to the communications coming from that persona. So there's quite a lot of interesting things coming with the platform.
So Holly asks a great question over in the comments. She said, resorts are obviously a good target customer for you, but who else and who isn't a good customer for you?
So it's actually interesting. We were incredibly surprised by how wide of a target audience this works for. So when we were designing it, we were thinking, we'll see what we get from a content perspective, and probably will only work for mega resorts. And it kills it for mega resorts. Mega resorts are like insane. If you have a golf course, if you have a spa, if you have grounds, it's amazing. But then we were like, all right, we have to see what happens. So we started working with hotels in tertiary markets just to see. And so we actually saw that you get different content. So first of all, everyone's probably picturing in their head what it is that you get from guest stories. If you actually go and look at our blog, we post every month our favorite guest stories that have come in for our customers. And you will see one commonality. It's almost none of it is of the building, unless something interesting was happening about the building. It's actually what people do when they stay with you. And so all of a sudden we go into these tertiary markets and you learn about like all the most amazing stuff. The other thing we learned in photo advocacy through just paying attention to the guest experience is most hotels were marketing their value propositions incorrectly. So things that you would never have known were a big deal, like they give bicycles. So a hotel that we work with gives bicycles, and it was a text line item on their website when we started working with them on this process.
Right.
Then we started getting all these amazing photos of the nature trails and all of this stuff around the hotel, and and they were all with the bikes in them. And we're like, guys, like, you have bicycle listed next to coffee maker in room. Like, but bicycle has a much larger impact.
Priority, Free cable TV.
Right.
The
Color.
photo
He did pool.
the photo of the porte cochere on the front of their website and everything.
Right.
That's what people really are.
And then we also learned that guests use your property in ways that you never imagined. So we have a hotel that has cabana rooms that actually have cabanas on them instead of porches right to the pool. And those cabana rooms have like 50-inch televisions. Well, one guest like actually put in a story where they had Bucky the Buckeye with them because they were saying this is the best way to watch college football.
Amazing.
And the hotel was like, holy smokes, we never even thought of that. Super Bowl and college football and all of this stuff. Because you get service. Like you get bartenders and everything coming to your cabana if you're outside your room there, and you have your TV and you can go dip in the pool. So the inspiration wasn't just inspiration to other potential guests or the friends and family of these guests. It actually has inspired our hotels to do campaigns and marketing that they had never thought of before.
Well, you answered something that was always an enigma for most companies, and still is. I don't think they see the brilliance of the concept of it right now. Is that they feel that curated content is the best content, and I always thought, and a lot has come inspired from talking with you and the other motley gentlemen here about how companies are missing the mark by trying to control the message. And it reminds me of that friend that always hung around going, yeah, that's cool, let's do that. Or because it's like companies want to be that cool person. They want to, let's do that kind of thing. And meanwhile, the people that are actually enjoying themselves are looking back at this person going, dude, relax, just, you don't have to be in front of the conversation the whole time. And so you, instead of, and then, I'm sorry, some of these companies also think, well, let's get curated content from our staff. They're still not the end product user. They're still under they're not going to do anything that's not going to be what they think you want. So it's still going to be contrived. So why not go to the people that use your product? I mean, why people take their software and put it out into the open market? Because it explodes 10,000 times more with development. because now the users are really quantifying the value proposition. And you've done the same thing with social. Rather than trying to curate the message and be that person that's trying to be in the conversation, you said, hey, let me listen to the conversation and then give you what it is you guys are asking for, or make it better, what you're looking to do.
Right.
And you
then the other key thing is like, look at social for what it really is. It's a distribution platform.
Right.
The only thing that's changed, the only thing that makes it any different than what my last company was instead of distributing rates and inventory like we did on EasyHield, social platforms distribute inspiration.
Right.
Mhm.
So the thing is like, distribute inspiration, but don't keep them there. Pull them back to where you stand a chance to convert them in a way that you will not have to pay to speak to them in the future. Because if you're only focused on getting them as likes or followers or things like that, that's getting organic reach, by the way. And I got to get you the article because it was awesome. Like, it works really well for us. TechCrunch came out and said organic reach on Facebook for brand pages less than 20,000 likes will go to 0 this year.
Oh, sure.
So
I believe it.
now the only value in likes is advertising auctioning.
Well, you
Like,
figure as soon as they release that cap, before you could only like a certain number of pages. I mean, early on, this goes back a ways, that you could only like a certain number of pages because they didn't have a way of quantifying what was streaming in your newsfeed. They were feeding you anything you liked, and then they had to start limiting that. And now they're allowing you to like whatever you want to, but to your point, they're really throttling what the ranking availability is in below a certain threshold, whether it be 20,000 or even less. So you're just not even going to show up unless you say, I'm a favorite of that person and I want to make sure I see it.
Everything's getting worse for organic on social. So first of all, people like 50% more
and
pages.
every other channel,
And search and anything else that's organic.
But people like 50% more pages this year than they did last year. On average, at any time that you log into the Facebook newsfeed, there are 1,500 stories that are available for you to view as a user. Facebook only shows you 300 of them. Now, most of that 300 are your friends and family, and then the remaining scraps go to pages that you like that have done post performance that's good enough to make it worthy of going into the news feed. Right. And so everything is working against organic reach here, because in order to make your experience better, Facebook doesn't want you completely spammed. Now, they want ads in front of you. They want all that stuff in front of you, but they want exactly what you want in front of you. Now, you're also competing with the newsfeed garbage of like, you know, these 5 things change this person's life. Kim Kardashian, this, like, they're getting placement in place of your organic reach. Right, so if any of your followers like Mashable, if any of your followers like the New York Times or anything like that, those companies are getting into the newsfeed every time. You're not.
Right.
So that's great for us, because then that strengthens the, you know what, have your guests introduce you to their friends. People understand word of mouth marketing. Well, now it's scalable, right? And instead of just having it be text, have it be a rich photo of their favorite memory plus a quote of the absolute high point of their stay. You're a part of that stay, and let's drive them back to your site where, first of all, again, it feels like magic. If you've ever clicked on a guest's link that goes out there from Flip.to, when you click on it and go to the hotel site, it's the best version of the hotel site you've seen, because all of a sudden there's a picture of your friend whose post you clicked on right there front and center. There's a recap of the post you clicked on. And then the messaging is all around, hey, because you know a guest of ours, we'd like to have the opportunity to take care of you and give you an experience just like theirs. It's hospitality. And instead of book now, it's, hey, you can claim and lock this in for when you're ready.
But then again, you did what everybody that should do proper advertising has done, and that is, if you're going to ask them to act on something, click the big red button, bring them to the content that made them click the big red button, which is, in your point, the engagement of your social interaction. It's not that, oh, now that we got you, bye. It's like, no, it's you followed this because your friend experienced something you found intriguing enough to follow. Let's continue that conversation. And yes, by the way, now we're introducing you to what they were enjoying. So it makes it's brilliant in the thought process.
And the numbers, when you do it right, you time it right, you put the content correctly there, you follow the chain of trust correctly, which we all take care of. Like, it's built into our platform. So a hotel doesn't need to all of a sudden be an expert on this stuff. Like, our entire account management team, half of them were customers that after being customers were like, hey, you guys are cool. We want to come work for you. Great. I want you talking to my other customers. And then the other half come from like theme park marketing or, destination marketing companies. They're all marketing experts. These are all people who held e-commerce titles, revenue management, any of these types of titles that actually play a role in driving demand. They take care of like figuring it all out for you. We use data for everything. So there's never a discussion. It's like, what do you want to try to do? Great. Trying to do that, you'll get this, and this. How do we know? Because we do this for a ton of hotels. And we have hotels just like yours in markets just like yours. So
I don't want to lose that point you just made, because there's a couple of interesting floating articles out there, not that we're going to talk about them right now, but just where there's this watering down of so-called professionals that are if they're so good at what they're doing, why is it they're struggling to basically perform with what they're teaching? And there are a lot of people that are knowledgeable about what they're doing, but they themselves can't be successful at what they're trying to sell. And you're backing it up with data, which I think is a key element to this process. It's not everybody can have an opinion about market strategy. I mean, good God. But it's hey, you know what? My opinion is not based on theoretical what ifs. It's tangible what we know.
Right. The market will tell you when we get it right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that T-shirt? I have this T-shirt. I love it. It's like without data, it's just another opinion.
Right.
Because it really is. I mean, it's just, unless you can really show numeric facts to it. What is that guy from Tambourine? I was sending out that calculator or the simulator thing, and he said he liked the correlation between revenue management and marketing. I says, well, yeah, because there should be a tangible link between market strategy and revenue generation. I mean, why are you doing it? I mean,
the return on investment.
Yeah, it's just not talking about doing marketing. It's like, this is a tangible return value.
Well,
if you do this in dollars.
So talking to that, part of the reason we do that as well is like sometimes you hinder your own creativity by what you think is possible. So instead, what we like to do with our hotels is like, what are you trying to achieve in a strategy? Tell us that strategy. We'll come up with options for you, and we'll tell you how each option will perform. So because we can say, another hotel your size in a market that attracts the same type of traveler did this, got this level of engagement that led to, and by the way, I mean, like, for every guest share, 10 unique visits back. For every unique visit back, over 10% sign up as a warm lead.
Right.
Every warm lead converts after, and so warm leads age. So this is another thing that's new to hotels. Like, you don't just get a warm lead and then you get a booking.
Right.
It's 42 days is the magic conversion number. And at the 42-day marker, it's a 3% conversion of warm leads to bookings.
I have a question about buy-in from your customers. I mean, obviously, it's shifting their mindset. If they weren't already thinking the way you were thinking, it's quite a concept change for them to go from how can we push our market message to how can we better create a hospitality experience, which in turn creates the market message. How much of a buy-in do your customers need in this concept? Because you're changing how their navigation is going to their site, not navigation, how their traffic is going to their site, their methodology of content, their hospitality service levels. I mean, there's a lot of things that are winding up with this. What do they have to do to start working with you? So
first of all, in most like sales process, we heavily qualify customers to make sure we're a mutual fit. So one key indicator, so Holly was asking what kind of hotels work or don't work. There is a key indicator to how much direct business they get on their site versus their hotel room size that actually tells us if they have a serious enough direct channel in existence. Because one thing you have to remember, our top of funnel that starts our process is how many guests we can get access to.
Yeah.
Right. So we go through that. First of all, if anyone hears a hotel and hears me talking about this, everyone should know what your average amount of direct bookings on your site are. I mean, and can we get back to that after we're done talking about this? We'll talk about that. Because if you don't know, then you're not executing the correct strategy for what the state of your direct channel is.
That's right.
Right. Yep. You're going to find you're spending more and getting less. I mean, there's a lot of problems to it. So we qualify. Then we show a 50,000 foot view of what Flip.to is about, what we try to accomplish, and then like the basic premise. There's sharing and there's conversion experiences. Generally, until we're at contract, they don't see much more of the system unless they ask. Because so by the way, you could do what we do by going and buying Marketo and then hiring a team of design experts and, consumer behavior experts and, all of this stuff, and actually piecing together processes and then testing them over time to, tweak them and fine tune them. So like what we do is not anything that's unique specifically as a function. The difference is we built it to where a hotel says, I want this, I believe in this. Great. 3 days later, here's how we think you should set this up based on how you're marketing your hotel. Do you want to tweak it?
This, by the way, I got to jump in for 1 second. This, by the way, is what sold me on Flip.to. When I first saw it, Ed knows this. I'm a big fan. I'm a big advocate. I was working with a bunch of hotels and saying, here's what we need to do strategically. But where we struggled in many cases was execution. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of hotels don't have the resources. A lot of the agencies supporting these hotels don't have the resources or the skills or know what they're doing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even
I sat down with Flip.to and it was like, hey, plug this in and you're done. And I was like, son of a bitch.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. We created new levers.
Right.
And so rather than spend a huge amount of time in your brain space trying to teach you what the levers are and how to pull them, we just go, based on what we see, this is what we recommend. Tell us what you want to tweak. And then we look at the tweaks and we say, yep, those tweaks are all fine. Or, hey, by the way, this one tweak is going to move engagement by this percentage. And we just let you make the decision. Like, we're fine with it because we're a platform. We're here to execute the hotel strategy. The difference between us and like most other things is like we're introducing you to a new strategy. Right. So continuing to this. So we'll take a hotel live and train them on about 15 to 20% of what the platform can do. And then we monitor their everything that happens. And as key events happen, we actually reach out to the hotel and go, hey, this just happened. So now we're going to talk to you about this and we're going to give you best, use case and all of that. So we've actually broken up onboarding to be 90 days after you go live. We're outreaching on a regular basis every time a key event happens, giving you a lesson on here's what you can do, here's how you drive value from this, or hey, you don't have to do anything, but look, you just did this, celebrate. And then so by the end of a 90-day period, we took someone from never hearing of a concept like this before to actually being pretty advanced, where we actually start getting into like really tight customer segmentation and really dynamic experiences based on behavior, really promotional activities. Like, so we work with a lot of our hotels that do promotions. We'll actually turn that into what the guest is sharing to their friends and family. We just reword it. It's the same promotion. So they get more performance out of that promotion.
Right.
And then even to the point where, a lot of the stuff you see, like if you go to one of our hotels' websites where you see Flip.to's components, it's just because hotels didn't have the ability to do that themselves. So we built easy to use. Okay, you want guest stories on your homepage? Great. Here's something you copy and paste in. It doesn't matter what kind of website you have that. You want to use social proof on your site? Let's not build TripAdvisor's brand anymore. Social proof is really easy. So all the guest quotes that get collected and curated, they dynamically show up on the site, and they show up using a psychology and a conversion experience. It's just designed to get the person to unveil who they are. So then you can track their behavior. You're not giving them anything, but they think you are. And so we keep expanding, and then we say to a hotel, like, help us understand what you're trying to accomplish. And then if it's a simple plan, then we start super simple. If they're like really advanced, like we have a lot of fun with those, because then we nerd out and we're like, okay, let's go advanced from the get-go. And to the point where we took a hotel like the Shores in Daytona. They're one of my favorite hotels to talk about because they are the average hotel. So they're an independent property in a market that has a price ceiling. They have budget constraints like everyone, so they haven't been able to get their website rebuilt, even though they want to. And they started out like with hey, I know marketing, but I don't know this concept. Great, we'll teach you. We're now at the point where you go to the director of marketing. If you get her business card and flip it over, it's a guest story on the back that a guest submitted. If you go to their site has continually been refreshed because Flip.to keeps building site components, and she just keeps putting them in and layering them in correctly. We redesign them for her and all of that stuff. And then you look at any email marketing she does, all the imagery in all of her emails are from guests.
Right. What is the website built on? What platform is the website built on that you guys?
They're using Sabre.
Sabre, okay.
Yeah, so Sabre is their site provider. We just give her stuff that works in. She has a monthly maintenance agreement with them that includes hours. Great. We send here's a code snippet, paste it in. We'll style it all on our end.
Nice.
Yeah, and so and because of that, first of all, the Shores, their monthly reach eclipses their entire social footprint that they have everywhere else. So their monthly reach through guests, friends, and family is bigger than all the effort they put into Facebook audience, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, you name it. And it's a new audience every month. And it's not you as a hotel or as a building speaking to this audience. It's this audience's friend who did business with you and had a good experience talking to them.
And that goes back to one of our oldest conversations that months ago, we started talking about the fact that we're all on rented land, and that it's about relationship building with the people that come into your property. Because as you just mentioned, of social organic reach is going to disappear below certain thresholds because it's no longer viable enough to be even put into news feeds and so forth on social. The only thing you have is the ability for direct communication, the relationships you built from the services you provided, and the people that know those people. It's like kind of like all that's old is new again, because that used to be the way it used to be way back when.
Right.
Friends of the people that enjoyed your hotel are the ones that got invited the following year. So if you don't have those databases already existing or creating those relationships, the ability to reach the people that supposedly on these rented platforms of Facebooks and Instagrams and everything else is going to go away, because you can't control or moderate it unless you pay for it. So you're creating,
which, by the way,
it's
worth paying for. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Social advertising is the cheapest form of advertising now.
Yeah,
and this is where we've actually been working with our hotels to change what their social ads are.
Right.
And so anyone who's going to be out at HSMAI Arizona when I'm speaking on the 15th, you'll actually see a case study that we did on the difference between a regular hotel ad and then a hotel ad mocked up with guest stories and what the back experience is. And then you'll also hear me talk about the whole idea that that's step one to a strategy. Step two is a conversion experience that makes sense to whatever the media or ad is. And so, that's where I go into, here's a ton of hotel ads. Look, they all say book now or check rates. Right. None of them earn that. None of them earn that call to action whatsoever.
Right.
Here's guest stories of this hotel, and the call to action should be see more stories. And then in the see more stories experience, there should be an opportunity for people to like stories and unveil who they are. And then you start a conversation.
Right.
And that's how you get top of funnel. You get out of competing with Expedia for transaction.
Right.
Get out of competing with Booking.com at time of transaction. Win the relationship before the person has even decided where they're going to travel, and magically you've beat other travel destinations.
Right.
Well, and
absolutely.
The interesting thing is this is kind of the secret sauce that the brands and the OTAs haven't really figured out, because they've been really struggling with the inspiration stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the biggest problem has been connecting the dots from inspiration all the way down through the research, planning, in validation into the booking. So Expedia spent, I don't know how many tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on their what was it? It was the really unique experience.
Right.
Crap, I can't remember. Anyway, a great campaign, right? It was, do these really
that you can't remember, by the way.
Yeah, but they stopped. But
Good enough that he knew it happened.
But they also stopped
right.
They spent heavily they launched it at TBEX. They had travel bloggers. They were getting some great and then it stopped. And my theory, I don't have any inside information there, but my theory is it wasn't converting to bookings.
Well, here's the thing. Do you know why it won't work for Expedia or Booking.com or an airline?
because they don't control the experience.
They don't own the relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
The hotel is the one who owns the relationship. And this is the thing we try to help hotels understand.
Absolutely.
That if you treat that correctly, which we took care of a lot of it for you and we're continuing to take care of more, you'd be amazed at how advanced of a marketer you can become by just having a switchboards of buttons and an army of people actually doing the work for you.
Yeah. Well, and you made a point earlier that I was going to disagree with, and you just reinforced the point here, that you said the trip doesn't begin when they book their airline ticket. I would disagree with that. That's when their trip is beginning.
No, the trip isn't real.
Or isn't real. Real. Right. And the trip is real, but it's not interesting. It's just transportation.
Right. It's a bus with wings.
It's a function.
Right.
Yeah, it's a functionality.
Experience, and the key is what's the experience they're going to do. That's what makes that.
And their experience greatly differs by what neighborhood they're in.
Right.
And what the purpose of the trip is, too. If they're a business traveler or they're traveling with their family, they are going in with very different expectations, even when they're staying at the same property.
Right.
They have a very different need and a very different expectation of what they need to get out of that.
Right.
Yep. So, I mean, like a perfect example is New York City. We work with a lot of hotels in New York City, and they're in different neighborhoods, but like New York City's got like 5 or 6 types of trips in it, but based on what neighborhood you're in, the actual experience is completely different. And how do you market that as a hotel?
Right.
Unless it's through the lens of here's what people do when they stay here.
Right.
You instantly know that whatever that person did is convenient to the hotel. Right. And you see people like, 'cause you got to think about consumer behavior. If I see someone on a site that's authentically there, it's not, a model, because let's face it, there aren't models that look like me. Take that as you want.
Hint: People Magazine, World's Sexiest Man. Ed has thrown. He has thrown.
Keep trying. But you see people who are similar to you doing things, you're more likely to go, you know what, I could do that. This could be me. And so, you can't do it through models, but you do need people on your site. So how do you do that? You do it through the guest story. And the guest story is more interesting, more trusted. And, oh, by the way, their stories are misspelled. Like, I can't tell you how often we keep having to remind hotels that marketing should be perfect. Conversations are messy and authentic.
Sure.
So no, that's why we won't let you correct the spelling of what the guest wrote.
So
it's right. So there's things like that. And then most importantly, so everyone understands about Flip.to, it's the most boring aspect of the platform. We built legal compliance into every process. So you're not going to get in trouble with the FTC. You're not going to get in trouble on copyright law. You're not going to get in trouble
passive endorsement for product
privacy. Oh no, endorsement is crafted correctly in our process. You will not violate these things. And if you're foolish enough to think that the FTC isn't paying attention, they are. And they're very active in cracking down on these behaviors. And so
So what are you doing on the FTC side to make sure that these quote endorsements are? I think that people listening would be.
So we're following by the letter the best use case that the FTC has put up. So there is no law. Like there's no hard and fast law, but they've come out and said, here's the range of acceptability. And in that range of acceptability, there is like a super safe approach. Well, we applied that so that everything that happens with the framing of, so like someone who's trying to get their friends to vote in a photo contest. Instead of, hey, come vote for my photo, I'm a finalist in this hotel's photo contest. Help me rally votes. That's a complete statement that passes all the muster that the FTC has about what's an endorsement, how should it be framed, what needs to be said in it. Looking forward to my upcoming trip staying at this hotel. That is a truthful statement. That's a very common post type that we do. That's crafted around the FTC. Even how the communications we trigger, like they are the best form of making sure you're CAN spam compliant. Like, so you don't have to think about this stuff as a hotel. You get to think about the fun stuff, which is what's a campaign that I want to do.
Yeah, but it also makes it easier for them to sell it to their ownerships too. Like, hey, look, we're not putting ourselves into dangerous waters by taking on a project that somebody created but didn't think through the legalities of it.
We actually have legal teams like inside large organizations that pitch us as like the alternative to everything else that a hotel's doing, because when they looked at it and they saw the depth that we also take into consideration, Canadians' privacy laws or Canada's privacy laws.
Right.
And they're tight.
We watch the European Union and how they're moving, and we continue to make sure that the platform stays ahead of any of those movements. So you're not going to make those mistakes, but also we're like the easiest way to get people added to your marketing database correctly to where you can market them.
Right.
Because every warm lead we get for a hotel, you can send a marketing message to, regardless of where they are in the world.
I want to pause for just 1 second to remind you, Ed, that you have to record your Phoenix show. One for
well, you know what I actually decided? We're going to turn it into a webinar afterwards. Because awesome. I every time I do this, I redo it to make it bigger. So the presentation's bigger. So even if you've seen this presentation before at another event I've done, it's actually different. So there's always new data, always new things to walk away with, things you can do without Flip.to. Like, I'm not there to sell Flip.to. I'm there to actually help people, think through how to just be better in marketing.
No, it's cool. Is that a Bing thermal cup, by the way?
I don't know what this is. It's
no.
Probably killing me. I'm pretty sure it's from China. It's off gassing.
The reason why I want to say that you need to record it or have it, and this is something before I have to bow out here in just a couple of minutes. I'm throwing up a link, gentlemen. You are live 24 hours, 7 days a week. Woo-hoo. All these shows play over and over on Fire Talk now.
We got to put this thing on Apple TV. Let's get a channel.
I'm working on an app for a different reason. I'm thinking maybe we should just stop that one and do this instead. Hospitality, digital marketing. Can we
get a syndication on Hulu?
Hey,
Netflix.
But no, this
unfortunately, Ed,
things.
But I do.
You got to figure out the persona of our viewer, which is the other viewer in addition to Holly.
How could? Well, no, Jim Struno.
Jim's been with us.
Okay.
Yeah, Jim's been with us, and Facebook Live. I can't see right now. Anyway, so the reason why I say that is that I can open up the ability to have other contributors channels. It's basically a YouTube channel, a playlist you put on there, and then you throw it on there. And the cool part about the platform, it's a backup platform for us to do live shows should we have a problem here. But also, you can connect it to like today. First time we've had a problem with it. Great. Pay $50 a month, and what do they do? It breaks. But you can create a playlist and Facebook on YouTube, and it'll play 24/7 over there. Gentlemen, we have 39 hours of shows. 39 hours.
And
that's only 3 episodes.
It's only 4 minutes of actual content. The rest
is
the
past
all
2
of us.
Episodes. We give ourselves too much credit. Anyway.
How many hours was it again?
39 hours, almost 39 hours.
That's 20 hours of Four Seasons stories.
Oh, don't forget about Cornell. Cornell.
It's 10 hours of Tim being coy about the brand he used to work for. He's not going to say who it is.
Or musical.
When do I not say who I worked for? I worked for the leading hotels of the world, and
don't forget which was 15,000 links to Tim's website.
By the way, Tim, did you watch last week's episode?
Always be closing. What's that?
Did you watch last week's episode?
I have not seen last week's episode.
Just watch the where to find us part.
Yeah, it's all good.
No. Okay.
Yeah, we need some extra pages on your website, Tim. We think we're there.
I can just give you a code snippet if you'd like. I can control the experience from there.
But anyway.
Actually, I'd be happy to do that, Ed. I'm actually down with that.
If you guys have content, like the webinars or anything video-wise that you want to put up there, I would really welcome it. I just want to blow it up and make as much on there as possible, not just these shows. I have it peppered with webinar promos and stuff of webinars I've had and so forth. And it's kind of neat that we actually have a 24/7 channel that we can kind of throw stuff in. Who's to say what it is or not, but it's there. The other was, and I didn't want to lose part of the piece of this, is doing that simulator, that revenue simulator, and handing it out to industry people. I found out that there's a blind side to the percentage of direct channel contribution, one, that people just absolutely freaking don't know what their direct channel percentage is. And two, the percentage of digital marketing expectations for their budget. They have no idea what they expect to get for the dollars they're spending in digital marketing. One, they don't even know what the assigned value is of their general marketing budget to what's specifically to digital. And then to add the next question, the amount of revenue to be generated by that contribution of funding for your marketing towards what your expectations are of all your digital channels. There's just this, well, why can't you just put an industry average in? I'm looking at it going, yeah, sure, I can make an industry average, but there is no industry average. It depends on your product and type and location.
Everyone else I spoke to gave me the same answer you did. How am I supposed to get an industry average?
It's kind of like you should know what your expectation of percentage.
When I gave you the hey, you should get KPIs. If you remember, I said you should probably just go to the vendors.
Yeah,
right.
Because the vendors.
And I took all those suggestions of that. And Jay had some good ones about making a KPI fact sheet that we just send out for expectations of all the categories with the simulator. But the really fun part of it is like you hit upon it in your conversation about is that people don't understand the direct value, the direct channel value of what they're actually getting from it. And it's kind of hard. How can you make a budget and forecast when you're not even knowing what the contributions and values are?
Well, more importantly, how can you be mad at an OTA for sending you business when you don't even know what business you're getting directly yourself?
Right.
There it is.
Because
Absolutely.
some hotels that we've talked to, I think when they did look at how little direct business they were getting, all of a sudden they changed their feeling about how they felt about that OTA.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
Can we see it in laptop? I'm not knowing what the question is, Master Linder. Can we see it in a laptop? Is that the calculator or our presentation today? I don't know. If you can be more clear on the question, that'd be awesome.
So, Loren, thank you.
Yep.
Safe travel.
Thank you very much. I'm going to actually, for the first time, bow out while you guys continue on. Just remember, whoever's last here turned the lights out. That will stop the recording.
Or we can just have the stream go continuously.
No, we already got a channel for that. And believe me, I was going to try to edit last week's, and because we went over 2 hours, it was over a gig in the first file and more in the other. And I'm like, it's a bear to download to a laptop to edit, but we'll do it, damn it. Again, Ed, if there's just to wrap up this portion of the agenda for this, for people to want to know more information or to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
timpeter.com/flip2. No, I'm just kidding. Flip.to, I actually posted some links. I'll post some more. You can do everything through that. You can find me by name via LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram.
Hey, Pinterest.
I won't answer on half of them, but you can find me.
He left off Tinder and Grindr, but okay.
Fortunately, I was married before both of those existed.
Can you imagine being in that world now?
I don't
gentlemen,
know if you like sandwiches enough to want to join a social network about it.
All right. So if I understand what's going to happen next, when I go off the air, you guys as co-host will still be able to continue. I'll keep an eye on the other screen to make sure I don't kill it. If not, then I might need to have one of you all log back in. But I'm going to go personally off the air, which should leave the event on the air. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm going to step away.
Travels.
Thank you very much. I'm going to drive down to Florida, and I'll catch up later. And
safe travels, and I will see you there next week.
Yeah, I'll see you there next week. Thank you for kicking in, Mr. Tim. Sorry for the technical issues. Still don't know what happened. We'll figure what happened. Bye, guys.
Bye. So did you guys have any more questions about Flip.to? Or do you want to move on to the fun stuff?
I have just not a question, but a comment. I want to go back to what you were talking about with curating the stories and showing it through the eyes of the guest and things along those lines. And I just want to make one point because it's something that's come up on this show more than once over the last year plus, is if you pay attention, you generally, the folks watching, are paying attention to what Airbnb is doing, right?
It's people's stories.
It's people's stories, and everybody's wondering, well, how can I compete with how can I compete with Airbnb? And the answer is tell your guest stories. That's what I care about.
So here's the funny thing about Airbnb.
Please go ahead.
Their whole marketing is a farce to what they actually are. So their whole marketing is this whole, we are local and we are, stories and we are this and we are that. Except here's the thing. Airbnb has no local employees in market. So they're not local.
They have no employees.
They own no stories, but they use them. And they're not this warm, fuzzy, like hospitality organization, they are the epitome of the new version of the evil big machine that takes money. Now let's look at what a hotel is. A hotel is one of the largest employer of locals. They all live near somewhere, the hotel. They are the local experts. They know how locals live because they are locals. Hotels are a huge impact to the local economy, where Airbnb right now, until it's fixed, is actually kind of a problem. And until it's fixed, it's going to remain a problem. But ironically, Airbnb's marketing is actually what hotels should have been doing this whole time. And again,
absolutely.
Anyone who'll see me in Arizona, you'll see like my very funny way of depicting this, but hotels like in digital marketing present themselves as these cold corporate behemoths. And I've not met one. Like even when you get into the big brands and you look at the senior executives of the big brands, you'd be like, that's where Wall Street is. But they're all hospitality people. They're the ones who, as they're walking, pick up garbage off the ground and care about this. So it's so ironic that the one giant behemoth that doesn't care about hospitality is the one who's correctly marketing local and inspiration and stories and all of this stuff. And the ones that truly are that still aren't doing it effectively.
Well, the key though to Airbnb isn't Airbnb, it's the hosts. Right?
That's exactly right.
And that's what and the key hire from Airbnb was Chip Conley.
That's right.
Chip Conley with Joie de Vivre was doing exactly. Now you said, using your staff and things like that, but Joie de Vivre used their staff properly because they were talking about more like local events and what's going on this weekend and that kind of immediacy of generating content, which made it great. Right. And then, expertise on, hey, this is a particular neighborhood where the locals go and it's great. They've got a farmer's market or whatever it might be that isn't necessarily covered by any of the other hotels. So they did a great job. And now that's, Conley's been charged with trying to teach the hosts hospitality.
But here's the thing,
getting those guest
with a local host, you get one person. With a hotel, you get hundreds.
Right. Oh no, you should have that's the problem. The hotel has this massive amount.
Robert, pull your mic up a little bit so you're a bit loud.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Oh, much better, much better.
Oh, see, when I do that, you say I'm breathing too heavy. I got to find that.
Well, don't breathe. Just talk.
Okay. Exactly. But yeah, the hotels, especially the concierge function, right? Where it used to be, true kind of, magic, they were magicians. They could get things out of thin air. Like you need front row ticket. You need front row tickets to Hamilton. Yeah. There are probably a couple of concierges who can go deliver that. Right. I don't know how much it costs, but they can deliver, which is amazing. But what did hotels do? Let's cut budgets. Oh, we're rotating the person in from the front desk or whatever. Oh, goes to the concierge desk, that sort of thing. And then the worst case is they outsource it, right?
Yeah.
You walk into the Marriott Suites in Anaheim, it's Expedia's desk sort of thing. And they run it, and they've done a very good little ground game in all sorts of these tourist destinations.
Well, heck, in Orlando, pretty much every concierge is actually a timeshare.
Oh yeah. All those hotels suddenly really cut themselves off from guest engagement. And what have they done? They've put in a bunch of kiosks. The only interaction they have with the desk is when either you're going through some administrative process that benefits only the hotel, or there's a problem. And and what are they doing? They're making it more like, well, gee, that's kind of how an airline works.
And this is why I like hotels better than investment grade hotels.
Yeah,
there is a difference. Like you stay at like a Kessler, and he's a hotelier. His hotels do it right. You look at like Jim Struna was on here with Auberge. They do it right, and they get it, and they get what's important, and they put that in front. You listen to all the stories that you told about Four Seasons. They got it. They understood. It's about hospitality, and every now and then we just have to circle back and go, it's not a real estate play. That's a part of it.
Right.
But what's actually like causing the transaction is the hospitality aspect of it.
Well, and the worst part that the hoteliers, the ones who don't get it, who do take it as a real estate play, it's the worst form of real estate. because you have all this massive operation with all this labor and everything. So when things go south, there's this amplification of ugliness that occurs.
But that's why there's management companies and brand.
Yeah.
Like when you're
that's
really interested in real estate, you give it to a brand or a management company.
Right. But even
both.
The most ironic thing I remember, again, this is way back, early 80s. Bob Gilbert was at MHM, right, which was Motor Hotel Management. And it's like, what? But that particular group ran hotels better than Marriott, and at the time Sheraton. There was no Starwood, things like that. They did it. You'd hire these guys, and they could actually figure these things out, and figure out how to staff things and how to procure things, and all that stuff. Where the brands were just ridiculous.
Well, Robert and I were on a panel at a conference a month ago. And this was a discussion we got into about what business are you in? Mm-hmm. Are you in the hospitality business? Or are you in the real estate business? And technically, there's nothing wrong with either answer.
Right. As long as you accept it.
As long as you know that's
and act that way.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I worked for Sendant Corporation, not Wyndham Worldwide, which it became later, but Sendant Corporation was not a hospitality company.
No.
Right.
Sendant was a franchise sales company.
Right.
And we did a lot of things that were good for guests because it helped us sell franchises.
But that was the only reason.
But that was the only reason we did things that were good for guests. And
it
today
was
it's a very different
begrudgingly
company.
we figured out how it was good for us.
Exactly.
Do we really have to give them a bed?
Because we knew we could go to the street every quarter and report we'd added more rooms. Right. I mean, but fundamentally, that was the business we were in.
Well, the street liked more rooms, but they really liked the 2.5 billion of free cash flow.
Well, there was that. That was a nice little plus. Yeah, sure.
That's what they actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
But realistically, I mean, that's the kind of thing where you have to decide: if you're in the hospitality business, you're going to win by taking care of your guests. And to bring this kind of full circle to the Flip.to discussion, showing that guests actually enjoy going there shockingly works.
Right. And again, a long time ago, it did. What would you do if you had a resort, especially like a regional resort or something like that? You'd say, hey, here's this. You can give it to your friends, and it's good for
it just wasn't
10% off a free. Yeah, but they didn't have any reach, right? And then you could maybe get it to a couple people here or there. And in many cases, maybe it was measurable, but it was manual, probably a little shaky. But and I mean, what you've done is put that on steroids, and most importantly, tied it. You've connected the dots and the inspiration through the tracking down to the conversion, so you can actually figure out if it works or not.
Right.
And again, for some of these hotels, I'm sure you have some that sign up, and who knows? You may have the such and such little motel at the north end of the airport where you come in and go, well, this shouldn't work, but it might in certain
it's
little destinations.
Really funny. 18-room hotel in Antigua didn't have enough threshold direct bookings. So we'll tell you, we'll be like, listen, you just don't have enough direct bookings. You won't see what we're happy with on an ROI. And so, we don't think it's going to work. And they just refuse. They're like, no, our guests are different. We're like, all right, listen, it's an annual contract, but if it doesn't work out, we'll just part ways.
Right.
Yeah, they get 90% engagement, which breaks everything. It all of a sudden makes that enough direct bookings. The guest stories are amazing. It's heaven on earth. And we would never have known this. And believe it or not, they've outperformed every metric of our platform because everything about them special. So,
but that's
the location.
But they know their guest. They know their guest. They're
guest.
telling you.
They know marketing. Yeah, but we hear people say they know their guests, and then we find out sometimes that's not always the case. So we're very sensitive to make sure that we're only really bringing through hotels that even if they're wrong, it's still going to work well, and everyone's going to be happy, because we only want to work with hotels that are going to be happy working with us. That way, we all have fun, we all move forward, and good things happen.
Well, what I like about it, and look, I'm an unabashed fan. For anybody watching, I probably should be asking more critical questions and poking
man,
full of holes. No, we've already done this like
Yeah,
a few times. So unfortunately, I can't remember any of the questions I asked you that you guys answered. The simple fact is, it's what a platform is really supposed to do. So I will tell you, I was working with a hotel recently, and we were doing an agency review, and they kept talking about their platform. And what they really meant was a process that they developed that was fairly cookie cutter and worked for a lot of hotels, and actually didn't in this specific case, which is why I'm being very coy about who this is, because they're a good provider otherwise. I mean, they're perfectly valid in many cases. But a platform, a true platform, is a thing that actually lets you do what works for you.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So this works for this little 18-room hotel in Antigua. It works for city center properties. It works for business-centered hotels.
Yep.
Because the only thing that changes are the stories.
Right.
Will it work for every hotel? Of course not.
No. I mean,
but as a true platform, it works for many hotels because it just provides a true platform. Whereas if somebody's coming to you and saying, "We have a platform, and you have to do exactly this,"
it's a
exactly
platform
this,
more in the way that political platforms are platforms.
Exactly.
Where we're actually a technology stack.
Right.
Like,
right.
So with us, you get, I mean, if you actually break apart what you get with Flip.to, you get a world-class content delivery network that will perform faster and better than anything else you buy. You get a world-class email infrastructure. So we use the same email infrastructure as Uber. We use the same content delivery network as Xbox. So you get those, and you get them working together correctly. You get a guest profile system that actually understands hospitality, but understands what a guest profile should be. You get web experiences that are dynamic and advanced and are like really would be expensive to pay someone to do. And you get it simplified to, what do you want to do? Like, just build a campaign.
Right.
What's the goal? And then all of those things change automatically for you. So you don't have to think about the technology.
Right.
And that's like the really important thing about Flip.to, that, it's funny. We always tell like any of our hotels, like, challenge us. I mean, challenge us, because first of all, like, we're obsessed about data. So our email outperforms anything else we've seen, and it's because we were obsessed with fine-tuning it and getting it to work to that level. And our web experiences are, we're amongst one of the fastest sites on the web. We're like top 99.9% speed wise, because we're in the right type of framework, and we're obsessed with statistics and data and using that data to action and make changes. So we do it for the hotels too. Like, when we see something successful, we build it. And then the other thing is like, and this is really the most important thing. Look at how we market ourselves. The majority of our marketing are stories about hotels, having guest stories be successful for them.
Right.
I mean,
you're eating your own dog food.
Right. and it's very successful. So and the other thing is like, we don't use Hunter. Yeah, Hunter does believe that Flip.to marketing is amazing. Hunter Beckting from Flip.to marketing.
From Flip.to marketing.
Yeah, but you'll also like it's down to new.
Now, I think that violated some FTC thing.
I think it did. Well, I fixed it by saying where he was from.
Oh, there we go. Good.
But it even goes down to nuance. Like, if you actually pay attention to our marketing and you look at what the pictures are, it's actually our employees traveling. We don't use stock anything. There's no stock photography in any experience we build. Like, there are so many pictures of my wife and my children peppered throughout Flip.to marketing. Hunter's got pictures of himself, Diane, and her dog. Like, if you watch the video, that's our head of digital marketing and her dog. And we do it all ourselves, and we do it authentically. Because authenticity is what's the most important part.
That's right.
And communication is just the platform of distribution. If you get the content right, everything else starts to fall into place.
So if Tim won't ask the tough question,
ask hard ones.
So how much does this cost? What's the business model? I mean, it sounds. I'm skeptical. It sounds too good to be. It sounds too good to be true.
It's actually, so it's funny. So we do have standard pricing, and the standard pricing is based on the size of the hotel, unless the hotel has like some weird disjointed direct marketing effort. So if we end up with a 500-room hotel that has direct business of a 200-room hotel, we look at that. But I'll give you bookends. the hotel in Antigua up to like an 89 room hotel, it's $300 a month. We have a mega casino in Las Vegas. They pay about $3,000 a month. Our average hotel pays about $400 or $500 a month.
Okay.
So, and for our average hotel, it's like 2 or 3 room nights a month is the threshold. Oh, and sorry, there is a one-time setup fee to configure it all.
$8 million.
$500, and that includes us and our designers designing out all the customization to make it fit your marketing and work with all your other vendors to make sure they implement it correctly and all the training and everything like that. Our goal is to make sure that we bring Amazon quality marketing techniques to what's realistic for a hotel, which also includes cost. Cost has to be realistic. You can't be $3,000 a month. Even if you bring in $10 million a month, I mean, every hotel has a threshold. It doesn't matter. Like ROI above a certain point, above a certain cost basis doesn't matter. So we make sure that it fits and it makes sense. And if you happen to be a hotel that overperforms a metric, which a lot of ours do because we like to go in conservative, you end up getting just crazy ROI numbers. And we like that. Like, we want you to do that because then you'll be with us forever and you'll get to see what other weird stuff we come up with to make your day better.
Holly's asking, who are your competitors, Ed?
So we don't have a single competitor that does what we do. However, if you break up our system into platforms themselves, so, the fact that we collect guest content, there's a lot of companies out there that aggregate content through social media. So they're a subsect of a feature of our platform. If you're looking at like social sharing, again, there's a gazillion companies that do that, but the difference is none of them do it the way we do it because none of them bridge all the experiences together. So realistically, our comp set would be HubSpot, Marketo, plus a design team, plus consumer behavioralists and time. And fortunately, we're cheaper than HubSpot and Marketo, so you don't even have to make that decision.
Yeah, substantially cheaper.
Yes. Yes. And understand, like, we use our own marketing automation for our own marketing. Like, we looked at HubSpot and Marketo because we were like, yeah, we're going to do some advanced, content marketing. And then we said, wait, they're what we are. We know how to do this. So we pieced it together ourselves. It's strong analytics with really good email platform and really good landing page experiences and good content. And then think through the process, track and adjust.
Non-hotels.
That's actually, we get that question a lot. So this could work for other things. We don't. So we've actually turned down some major global brands outside of the hotel industry, but it's because we're working on something bigger for hotels. And so Flip.to has been executing on a strategy to get to a point, and so everyone understands the goal that Flip.to's always been working for, is to make it to where it is so utterly compelling to book directly with the hotel that consumers will not be able to justify any other means of booking their trip. And we actually have what is to get there. And most of what exists in Flip.to and most of what's grown in Flip.to are pieces of that bigger platform. So one day where we'll just say to hotels, oh, by the way, you can do this. It's on.
Right. Holly has an interesting question here about destinations and CVBs.
We've toyed with ideas of giving hotels tools to extend to their destination or CVB. We haven't really spent a lot of time on that model, but it has, again, it's come up, but we more look at it as the hotel taking part. So not the CVB or the destination as our customer, still the hotel, and giving them tool set to make the destination and CVB better.
Right. And I would say from the hotels not having an understanding, because actually I look at the components, you probably have about 4 or 5 key components. The hotels, if they understand their guests and the guest personas, right? The types of experiences they're doing, and having the analytics to go track these down. The CVBs are in even worse shape now, because you really look at a CVB site, and for a lot of them, they just link to Expedia,
Right.
right? And because Expedia gives them this turnkey, hey, we've got all the hotels in your destination. You don't go around this member. Are they a member or not? You just do it, right? And it's done, which is not the greatest thing for the hotels or the greatest thing for the CVBs, but it's cheap and low risk.
Yeah.
Well, it's cheap for the CVB, and low risk because there's no money. Or the CVBs kludge something together that they're doing just for their members, which is expensive and inefficient and doesn't really tie in because of all the different platforms. And it's
not every marketing organization should do digital marketing. I don't know why every marketing organization feels like they have to. CVBs are very effective at certain types of marketing. They'd probably be better off sticking to that.
Well, see, I disagree. I think CVBs should be the hub. If somebody wants to go to San Antonio, you would think that should be the site they go to. If they want to go to Antigua, you should go. That just kind of the logic. That's where they should go.
I agree,
but that is the last place they should go.
Think about how hard it is for a brand to convince one of their owners that own a franchise to like update their property management system. So now imagine a CVB trying to do that with hotels, and hotels are just like, the only tie I have to you is I'm in the same city as you, and you know, like no.
No. But it should be. It's hypothetically
in a perfect world.
It should be in a perfect world, because you look at it doesn't matter if in Antigua, the country wants people to come in. They've got a whole revenue stream of tax revenues and employing, individual, employing the people who live there, the civilians. That's what they want to do. So it should be the lowest cost, most efficient. But it's not, and it's the antithesis in most cases, which is a little tragic. So.
By the way, I posted another post for another alternative way to find Flip.to. Thank you, Tim Peter, for setting that up.
Further proof that Tim builds his website and all these articles on the fly.
Actually, the funny thing about this is my web developer is going to give me such crap about this later. He's going to be like, "What is this page?
What is this?" So I mean, to kind of wrap it up is, we take our knowledge of hoteliers, we take our knowledge of marketing and consumers, and we package it in a way that's realistic for hoteliers, and gets them to just move every metric into a better, area. Guest satisfaction, relationships, direct bookings, content. I mean, the list goes. Understanding of data. So you talk about big data, and so we're little data, because we actually give you a way to take advantage of all the data that gets spun off from all this behavior. We're not big data, which is called big data when you can't do anything with it. That's why it's called big data. Actually,
I do a lot of work with a couple of Fortune 100 companies. And most hotels will never do big data. You don't have big data, and you shouldn't worry about big data. You should worry about your data.
Right.
You should worry about how you make your data work correctly for you.
Right.
But what big data is, there's an old joke.
The high school. It's like,
oh well, that's a good one too. That wasn't what I was going for. But there's a joke. It was like J.P. Morgan or somebody like that once said. If you know exactly how much money you have, you're not that rich. And that's really what big data is. If you know how much data you have, like if you can quantify how many email addresses you have or how many reservations you've had, you don't have big data.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
And that's actually a really good thing.
It is.
Big data brings in a whole host of other problems. So don't worry about big data.
Yeah, the big guys. Amazon worries about big data.
Amazon worries about big data.
Expedia worries about big data.
Amazon and Expedia monetize big data.
Correct.
You bet.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Those are P&L line items.
All those, but it's all But the key is it's all behavioral.
Right.
It's not this. The old school demographic. Well, let's target people on Long Island of such and such, whatever, character. It's like, nope, let's have them come in, do this. Here are the triggers, here are the signals, and then work it out.
Yep.
And then look for patterns.
I'll give you a real world example. I know we're kind of digressing a little bit, but a real world example, when Amazon looks at its data of what people surfed, around the site for, or browsed on the site for, and then what they bought, it's very hard for them to look back and say, okay, what actually happened here? Because there's just so much data.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If you can look at your data and say, well, we were at this occupancy last Labor Day weekend, and we were at roughly the same occupancy the Labor Day before that. We were roughly the same occupancy the year before that. Guess what? You don't have any problem.
Right. You're good.
You're good, man.
Don't
it's
ask
all good. Yeah. Like that's not a complicated problem to solve.
Right.
The complicated problem to solve is there isn't enough hard disk space or enough memory space to actually look at the data in memory.
We encountered this with Easy Yield. So when we
connected
connected up revenue management systems decision metrics to the OTAs, first of all, so we had to completely redo the hard drive array system. And we went to this very forward-thinking approach to reading and writing storage. So forward-thinking that Red Hat had to adjust the kernel of the operating system because it never anticipated speeds at that level.
Right.
And then we had to figure out how to throttle it without losing important data so we didn't bring down Expedia with a single hotel's request. That's when you have
big data.
Right. When a single push turns into such a large amount of data. And that was the type of stuff we had to solve for constantly there.
Right.
And that's big data problems.
Right.
Like when you're hoping, you're like, please, solid state drives get a little bit faster this year because our customer base grew by 10%. And if you don't go, I'm screwed. Those were real problems.
Right. Exactly.
I'll tell you I think the statute of limitations is off of this. So I think this was an interesting Sabre thing that I ran into when I was there. This is late 90s. Probably let's say 97-ish. We had this problem with the hotel rates and inventory were getting out of sync. And it was like, well, wait, what's going on? And I don't know. The hotels would go, they'd do these refreshes, right? Which was basically close out all availability and rates for all dates in the future,
open them all back,
and then reload them all, right? And so, one of the first thing was they had made the decision: do not do that in the middle of the day. That's really bad, sort of thing. Do it overnight,
really,
because it gets out of order in the caching.
No. Well, you
also can get into
here's the problem. Here's the problem with Sabre at the time, and still at the core, kind of works the same. We did build some things around them. There was no caching. There were 8 processors,
right?
And the reason they didn't want hotel to be in the middle of the day was you got pushed behind in the queue based on air traffic.
Sure.
Airline heritage, right?
Yep.
So that's fine. Unfortunately, what would happen if you get a little group like Utel? I'll pick on Utel since they don't exist anymore. Utel had 5,000 hotels or something, and they would send their message in. And again, there are 8 processors, and this stuff got queued just to the first available processor. It didn't.
Yep.
So processor 1 gets the message that says close out all hotels, all dates, all day. Well, that was kind of a big message, and it took a little while, right? So that's fine. Unfortunately, the refresh message to start building things was right behind it.
You had a different processor.
So processor number 2 starts opening things up. 3, 4, all these other processors are going. That first message wasn't quite complete yet, and all of a sudden people would refresh, and it would get worse. Maybe. I mean, it kind of depended on absolute chaos.
Yeah, those were the types of things we had to solve for, especially once we got revenue management system decisions in place. Because you're talking about re-optimizing a 90-day window in certain markets 3-4 times a day. And so we actually got to a point where before we'd process the data request, we had the hotels create a setting of what's the threshold of change. So basically, if you re-optimize by 10 cents,
forget
we're not going to change it. And that worked for most hotels to where in most cases, it was like $3 or $4. So we were like, great. So we would immediately scrub any change request that was only, was less than a $3 change, and all of a sudden you cut a ton out. And then you processed it.
Right.
But that's where we ran into read-write issues and processing issues and stuff like that. Like, so elastic computing was so amazing for us. Like when that finally came available, we were like, oh, this is heaven. Because, our infrastructure was insane to be able to manage. I mean, we had 5,000 hotels changing to 800 OTAs and traditional wholesalers and, whatever other system we ended up connecting to. Yeah.
Well, since we're telling horror stories and digressing a little bit, I mean,
by the way, Tim said horror. It came out with a bit of an accident. Yeah.
Horror stories. I'm sorry. No, I'm doing work with a Fortune 100 company. Has hundreds of thousands of employees. You would know who they are. It's not in the hotel industry. And they actually need help with their intranet because search doesn't work on their intranet. And their actual problem is they have no idea how many web pages they have on their intranet.
Oh my gosh. Well, if it's anything like timpeter.com, I mean, that's how they hired you.
Oh my God. Yeah.
They're used to managing tens of billions of pages. So
exactly.
Just do what you did for timpeter.com for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I actually know how many pages are on timpeter.com. And let me tell you, it's not hundreds of thousands or literally the crawler that they were using would break. Like it would just stop processing because it just, couldn't get through the number of, because they should be using Google.
Right.
Realistically.
Well, and there's a specific file structure you should be using when you're that big.
Well, oh my God. Well, sure. If they'd actually had centralized control of the thing from the outset and all that other kind of thing. Right. Sure.
So did you say we're going to go get Google Analytics and we're going to just tie this thing in and then
No. We actually came up. We actually came up with basically it's a governance model. Is what it is really. Yeah. We start throwing things out of the search results after a certain number of pages. And if the site owner wants it in, they have to make a case for why it belongs there in the first place. And because the only way to do it is actually make it a governed process. Yeah. Unless they're willing to invest in certain amounts of technology, which for a whole bunch of reasons they're not. So, I mean, that then becomes a real simple problem. You want your pages to show up. You have to talk to somebody and play by some rules.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's great.
So anyway, nonetheless.
Well, gentlemen, I actually have a hard stop. I know it sounds crazy.
Well, Ed, it is always a pleasure. Where can people find you, Ed?
Well, now you can actually find me at timpeter.com/home/ Flip.to.
It actually /Flip.to. It'll take you right there.
Perfect.
Oh, you fixed that.
Or
okay,
you can go to Flip.to.
No, it redirects.
We did a 301 redirect.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a redirect.
And I appreciate you guys letting me do the Dog and Pony show today, showing off the fun stuff of Flip.to.
A bit disappointed. There was mention of a dog, but no ponies. I don't know.
Sorry. So weird. You guys have a great holiday weekend.
Enjoy your weekend, Ed. Great seeing you.
Bye. And so now it's just us.
Now it's just
and kind of a checkerboard. Now, do you have the checkerboard thing where?
No, I just have two side by side.
Oh, really? I've actually got 4 windows with 2 black ones diagonally, which is very weird.
This has been weird the whole time. The entire time, every single person who comments, it says invite to broadcast, and that included Ed and you. Loren. And I'm like,
I don't know.
You're kind of in the broadcast. We still have some kinks to work out here.
Yes.
Well, I've got a couple more minutes. I don't know if you do, but we can kind of run some news if you like.
News. One of the things that I think was interesting, I did a little interview yesterday on it, was Uber. Since it is kind of in the travel industry, even though they are not a travel company, they are a logistics company.
Yes.
But I just thought it was an interesting news item that Uber in the second quarter lost $1.2 billion.
Which, not in the quarter, in the year.
Or in the year. I'm sorry. That's right. First 6 months. First 6 months.
Yep.
First 6 months was when yes, but
when the closest parallel to that is Amazon 8 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that, lost $1.4 billion for an entire calendar year.
Right. Yeah.
This is by far the most money anybody's ever lost.
Right.
In this amount of time.
On revenues of like 1.2
on revenues
billion,
of right.
1.2 billion.
Right. As a
It's like,
share of revenue, it's the largest loss
Yeah.
ever, I think.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, this person was interviewing me, was basically saying, they had a series of questions, are these losses sustainable? That's like, they aren't going to be sustainable. They just merged with Kunshing, in China, which is what they were bound. That they probably spent 800 million or 900 million fighting against. That merger happened last month. No, the losses aren't going to be sustained.
Right.
They both went, okay, enough pain. Let's work together. Right. But it was very interesting. It was a travel industry publication, and they were very interested in talking about what the impact was and everything. And it suddenly was it's like, wait a second. Oh, and they said, are the drivers going to be upset and things like that? And it's like, the drivers aren't going to exist. The 75 cents of every dollar that comes of sales that go into Uber goes out to the drivers.
Right.
By 2021, you've got Ford, BMW, Volkswagen, and 30 other automakers saying, at least most of the three that I mentioned said 2021 they are going to have a fleet of autonomous vehicles suitable for ride sharing purposes, which is Uber, maybe Lyft, maybe some other folks, but predominantly for them. And the rest are hot on their tail. So it's like I liked the analogy I made. It's like the horseless carriage, the dawn of the horseless carriage, and the drivers are the horses.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got a better one. I didn't come up with this. I don't mean this like, let me show you, but I read the most brilliant thing. A guy by the name of Benedict Evans, who, for those of you who aren't familiar with him, you should be familiar with him. He's terrific. He is an analyst at Andreessen Horowitz, which is a venture capital firm. Andreessen Horowitz, if you don't know it, again, for anybody still watching, is founded by the guy who made the first graphic web browser, Mark Andreessen.
Netscape.
Yep. Well, actually, Mosaic.
Oh, Mosaic. That's true. Before when he was
before they were
university
before they became a public company.
Yep.
So Benedict Evans had a great point the other day, where he said elevator attendant. I'm actually reading from his Twitter, his tweet. Elevator attendant was once a skilled and responsible job in need of regulation.
Yes.
He then said, I like the concept that elevators are urban transport systems like trains or streetcars, except vertical.
Yes.
And so the whole idea is, once upon a time, you had to be trained and regulated to operate an elevator.
Right. And there.
So for anybody who thinks that self-driving cars will not happen, there's a technical term for this. I'm trying to remember what it's. Oh yeah, bullshit.
Yeah.
It's not a question of if. It's a question of when. And I hear the 2021 date. I hear 2025. I hear 2030. It's not a question of if. It's a question of when. It's probably not 2 years from now. It's probably not 3 years from now. It might be 5 years from now. It might be 8 years from now. It might be 10 years from now. It is, however, an inevitability.
Well, and people forget Uber's main goal, at least in the personal transportation, individual transportation sector, is to be cheaper and easier than owning a car, period, for everybody.
Well,
sort of thing. Now, maybe if you live way out in the country and you're in the middle of Wyoming with your, maybe you want a car. If you're anywhere close to anything, it's probably going to be cheaper and easier because you start calculating the cost of buying the car or the lease or whatever. You get that payment out of the way. The maintenance, the fuel, the insurance is my prediction is going to be the killer.
You are absolutely right. Here's the thing. I think so strongly about this part, Robert. I agree with you unequivocally. So I think it was Napoleon, was the first person credited with this. It's a horrible phrase, It is a horrible phrase, but they used to talk about the butcher's bill after a battle. Right? What did this cost us in terms of loss of life and things along those lines? Okay. In automobiles today, the United States alone, we kill roughly 80 to 90 people a day.
Right.
Every day. Guaranteed. Now you find another industry in this country where 80 to 90 people die every day.
Right. Yep.
And we just let that happen. It doesn't exist.
Right.
It simply doesn't exist. And at some point, and people talk about, the trolley problem, right? The philosopher thing of, the trolley's got to veer off or, kill this group or kill the one person, which is the right thing to do. And how you're going to program for that in autonomous vehicles and the like. And the answer is, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because if they can take that 80 number to 50, right?
Yep.
That's enormous.
Yeah.
That's 10,000 people a year who don't die.
Yeah. Yep.
And insurance companies and the public are going to go, okay, I want that. I don't care that autonomous cars are still killing 50 people a day. It's 40% better than where we are right now. Let's actually do that.
Right.
And so to me, this is not a question of if, it is a question of when.
No,
and they won't be perfect, and people will die, and there will be accidents, and that's true.
But they will be much less.
They will be greatly reduced than what we're doing already.
Right. And I don't know. I have a link somewhere here where actually the guys who are writing the code, and it's an MIT project, who are basically writing the code for. Oh, here I found it. I will put up a link in just a second. It's called The Moral Machine. And it's an MIT project, and they're going in and basically, interestingly enough, crowdsourcing the.
Interesting. Oh, interesting. Yeah. I mean, this gets those kinds of questions are complicated questions, and I'm thrilled I'm not the one who has to answer them because I don't know.
Yeah,
I do know if you could tell me you're going to save, 30 people a day, 10,000 people a year, we should do that.
Right. and it's really, and here's the Loren has posted the moral machine, but the scenarios are fascinating. And it's a classic trolley issue of, do you kill the single mother versus the six
school children or whatever
right. And they're really trying to figure out what societies, because you have to take that into consideration.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's an ugly challenge, but you've got to figure out, hey, who stays and who goes, because there's a decision being, if that horrible scenario arises, you got to make a decision.
Right.
And that's going to be the interesting one of the lawsuits of who coded this, and you picked my daughter versus those three other people. Well, wait a second.
Yeah.
Huge issues involved in that, which hopefully they'll never have to be chosen. but again, then you start getting into the I look at it almost as the fascinating part is, wait, what are the they have different groups of people who, are potential fatalities in this thing. And you go, well, wait a second. Because some of it's socioeconomic. You get into all these sort of signals, and you're like, oh, so is the engine going to have signals like that? Really? Or should it?
Right.
Or should
it? Yeah.
Really, really interesting questions.
Absolutely. And tough, thorny problems to solve that are going to be difficult to solve and imperfect, because human beings are imperfect.
Right. Yep. And you go, wait a second, that person over there they shouldn't have been doing that, or they shouldn't they shouldn't have been there.
Right.
Sort of thing. And it's like, well, okay. Maybe but were they there accidentally or intentionally?
80 people a day.
Right.
I mean, realistically, show me the butcher's bill, right?
Yeah. Yep.
If we can reduce the butcher's bill, that's probably a good thing.
Right. But
get messy.
But the thing other people are going to get upset about, aside from just that side, is going to be, but look at the job destruction. And you're like, right, every single taxi driver, every single, or like, I love the thing now, drive for Amazon to deliver things, right? Same sort of thing. Doesn't matter. FedEx, UPS, cross-country 18-wheeler. I mean, Uber just bought, I think it was Otto or something, OTTO, which is a...
Yep.
Big, cross-country 18-wheeler type. And you just start going, wow, yeah, everything. Well, because it's like, why do you need drivers for this stuff? Just have the stuff show up.
So there's a theory, and I don't know enough about this topic to this level of detail to know this for sure. But the theory that I've heard that I find compelling is that actually the place you will see autonomous vehicles take over first are long-haul truckers.
Right.
Because the routes are simpler, the rules are simpler, right?
Yep.
Get on 80 and drive west, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a simpler problem to solve. And companies like Walmart lose a lot of money every year to driver fatigue.
Absolutely.
Whether it's insurance claims because they had an accident, whether it's the guy had to pull over and stop. I mean,
right.
They
lose.
Well,
because that's how they make their money.
Because
they drive as many miles as possible.
Yeah.
And if you push kind of that, say, I'm really tired, or it's not good.
And when you talk about the jobs, I mean, I forget how many truckers there are. I've heard the number, but it's hundreds of thousands of people drive trucks in this country every year.
Yep.
And again, okay, ignore complete autonomy. Ignore complete autonomy. If it takes a 30% hit, that's a lot of people put out of work.
It's a lot. Well, and you look at the automotive industry where the business model is now changing because it isn't going to be sell cars to people.
Right.
It's now provide the fleet for Uber, or basically own the fleet.
Correct.
Right. So those guys, and I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, if it's going to be General Motors producing the vehicles for third parties, and there's some private equity group who isn't a car owner, independent of the manufacturing, or if GM and Ford just kind of keep the cars themselves. And I don't know, or I'm not sure with Hertz and Avis and those guys. I don't think they're getting into. I know they're doing some things with it, but it looks ugly.
I know. Avis, is it Avis or Hertz that owns
Zipcar? Avis owns Zipcar.
Right.
Yeah, but all of those, and you start then looking into auto repair. Service stations, all these sorts of, you start going, wait a second. All of the automotive industry is massive. So it's going to compress, produce, because cars unfortunately go unused like 94% of the time, or some outrageously high statistic.
Well, I actually... Okay, I'm going to be a focus group of one. I have two young adult daughters, one of whom lives at home and one of whom lives at college. We own 4 cars.
Right.
And I cannot tell you the number of days that I walk into my garage and see 3 cars sitting there.
Right. That's right.
And I know the other one is sitting in the parking lot at my wife's office.
Right. Well, and then
that's
you even get
incredibly inefficient.
And you get the urban space usage of the amount of footprint allocated to parking structures, the amount of road which is allocated to cars, and again the traffic issues where most of it is caused by people driving. They're in a hurry, so they drive too fast. They get too close. They have to stop, and you get these imperfect flows. Which we decided once to do the drive from Wisconsin to Florida for spring break, and didn't even think through the traffic in Tennessee. And out in the middle, just interstate highway, all of a sudden 2-3 hour traffic jams. And I mean, literally, we drove 60 miles out of the way, thank goodness for Google Maps, to avoid the whole thing, loop back in, and you're just like, that's it. And there weren't accidents. Well, there were accidents, because they were flow related.
I mean,
they were related to the flow problem contributing to it. So there was never really an accident that caused this whole thing at the beginning. It was just the flow constriction. So
so let's take this to hospitality for a second. Let's take this to the hotel industry. I believe, at least from everything I've heard, that the industry itself shouldn't have this same problem for a while. I mean, if we ignore, and this is a big if we ignore, right? But if we ignore the larger socioeconomic impacts that might occur if a whole bunch of people get thrown out of work and things like that, and how you resolve for that, I think that's beyond the scope of this show. And we might agree on how to solve for that, but it's going to. But
I think with Loren and Ed gone, we can figure this out now. That would be very
right. But no, what's interesting is what I've always heard is, when you talk about automation, what is very hard for automation to do, believe it or not, is the work that a housekeeper does.
Right.
Because you can program a robot to say, go in and vacuum a room, piece of cake. Yeah. You can go in a room, you can program a robot to, say, drive on a street with traffic lights and controlled rules of flow and things like that. What you can't do is, apparently, one of the reasons Amazon still uses people to put things in boxes is because machines are terrible at taking odd shapes and figuring out how to put them in the box most effectively, because there's too much randomness in it.
Right.
And the minute like an industrial robot. So I was at the Martin Guitar Factory a few weeks ago, posted a whole bunch of pictures online. It was a big thrill for me. I'm a guitar player. I love Martin guitars. And they had robots doing buffing.
Yep.
Okay. If the guitar is misaligned when it first picks it up, it stops.
Oh, well, that's good.
Oh yeah, it doesn't destroy the guitar, but it doesn't know how to buff it.
Right.
If you said to a robot, go in and dust this room, and the magazine was askew, or the book of services was in the wrong position, the robot actually doesn't know how to respond to that because there's too many variables.
Yeah.
So,
but that's okay.
Well. So a buddy of mine teaches physics, and he has a quote that he likes to say, which is, anytime a physicist says it's theoretically possible, what they're actually saying is it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sure those are solvable problems and will get solved over time. I'm very bullish on what we'll be able to do with the technology and artificial intelligence and the like. At the same time, that's not a 5-year problem. That's probably not a 10-year problem. Maybe 10 years from now, we'll be at the first steps of that. Yeah. Like we are right now with the first steps of autonomous cars, or maybe the second steps.
But you look at hotels and say, let's look at the labor line item here, which is a big chunk of it. Right. How can we take the labor out of the P&L and look at that? And I'm sure that's what's driving all these. So basically the technology destroys jobs, and in general, now it shifts to a different kind. There are different kinds of work, but in some cases, the skills, when you start looking at restaurant work and things like that, I have a fear. You get 3D printing and things like that, and you start being able to. Now, true, maybe your very high end gourmet, amazing, Michelin 3-star experience. Right, that's probably not going to get automated real soon. But a lot of the lower end stuff, because again, Wall Street's dictating. Get the cost, how do you get the costs out of the equation? Keep the revenues consistent and the costs out, and that drops straight to the bottom line. And so let's go. But it doesn't bode well for society. And then that's the problem with the hotel industry, is then you need people with disposable income to go stay in the hotels.
I think we have seen a longer term shift. We have moved from a manufacturing economy to a service economy. I think that's factually disputable, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to remain true for a while. I think that and I don't know this, clearly nobody knows the answer to this, but I think it's how do we create a service economy and how does that thrive still? Mm-hmm. Right. I think that's a problem that will get solved. I heard an economist, I was at a conference, I may have said this a few weeks ago, and it's a conference that operates under the Chatham House rules. You can't quote who said it. Right. There was an economist speaking on a panel, an economist who is the CEO of a company, and this is important, right? The conversation came around to income inequality, And this guy who is a CEO said, this is a very solvable problem. He said, I know this will be solved. Right? He said that there's no question because, 50 years ago, the average CEO made X times their average employee, the line employee's wage.
Yeah.
And today it's 20X, whatever X was.
That X, yeah.
Right. Or 200X, whatever that X was. It's a huge, huge number. Different.
Yeah.
And he said, and this is going to get solved. He said the worst case scenario is it's going to get solved when people just start shooting CEOs.
Right. Yeah. Revolution. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And so he was like, so I like to think we're going to fix it before then.
Yeah. Exactly.
But he was like, this is simply not sustainable. And it's clearly not sustainable. And, as a society, we're going to say, no more. Yeah. Because there's clearly a place where we know this goes to. And he's like, and I'd like to think we're smart enough and have enough self-interest to fix this before we reach that point.
And also, I've been a little harsh on the hotel industry, but I think it is. There's a long runway on this because you have globalization, international travel, and particularly it doesn't matter if you're in the U.S., you're in South America, or you're in Europe, you're in Africa. Really interesting places to visit, with different cultures, and to do that personally as opposed to just watching it. And I think now is starting to be a little bit of a renaissance. Instead of owning things, is owning experiences, right? And that will be the thing that kind of keeps things going, at least in terms of the revenue and the top line. Going up with people staying maybe more days or traveling more or choosing travel over other sorts of buying a dishwasher or buying a car.
Well,
right?
I'm looking.
They don't have to buy a car; they can go travel, and which is great.
I'm looking at a chart right now, and I don't know how to share this. It's actually in an Evernote document, so I'm trying to find the original URL. Okay. And it gets into it gets dangerously into politics. I don't like to talk about politics too much publicly.
Oh, I love to.
Privately, sure.
Let's get you in a lot of trouble, Tim.
No, but publicly, I try to avoid this because there's different solutions to these things. Right. But this is just an interesting thing. Harvard Business Review took real incomes, pricing power adjusted in constant $2005, and they talked about the global population by income distribution percentile and the real income gains in percentage from 1988 to 2008.
Okay.
So over this 20-year run, if you were in the global population index from the 10th percentile to the 70th percentile, 60th percentile, we're gaining 40% or better per year. Nope, I'm sorry, over a 20-year period. Excuse me.
Oh, okay.
40% income period, right? Yep. If you were the top 1%, you gained 60%. If you were in the 98th percentile, you gained top 2 to 5%. You gained 25%.
Right.
So most of the world is getting a lot richer, which is good for travel.
Oh, yeah.
The gains for the people who are in the 80th to the 90th are the ones who are getting squeezed. Right. They're still gaining, but their gains are in single digits to maybe 5 to 10% over that run.
Is this the who has gained from globalization article?
This is the who has gained from globalization article. Right.
I've got the link here.
You got the original link. That's terrific.
I will post that.
So the whole point is that the world as a whole is richer than they were 20 years ago. And that's good for travel. That's good for hospitality. That's good for our industry because it's going to get people traveling. And we're seeing a lot of that. And we'll see a lot more of it as more of the world's population actually can do things like travel. I mean, in the longer run, that's a very good thing. The short run is not so great. Oh, that's weird. Holly just said
I'm not getting any echoing at all from
Holly. That's odd. Very strange. I'm going to unplug my headset and plug it back in real quick.
That's very odd because I hear no echoing.
Yeah, I
from
hear
Tim.
no echoing. Holly, is that any better? All better.
What
Just-
what was Holly drinking while she was?
No, I actually heard this on another podcast. Somebody was talking about it. And apparently, if you unplug and replug your headset, sometimes that's all it takes.
Well, there you go. That's just like kicking the thing. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
yeah. But nonetheless, again, avoiding the politics for a moment, and ignoring the very real challenges that creates for the folks who aren't gaining.
Right.
Most people in the world are actually getting a lot better, and that's economically, and that's ultimately good for travel in the long run.
Well, and it was the Asian middle class who the top 1% and the Asian middle class were really the ones who are, in that 60 to 80% real income.
Well,
real
but
income.
but look at the chart. I mean, even the people
Oh, yeah.
down at the bottom of the list were gaining 40% a year.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I mean,
yep.
The only people who aren't gaining were folks who were in the 80th percentile to about the 90th percentile, which is the U.S. and Western lower middle class.
Right. And those are about a quarter of the gains of the poorest, fifth, the lowest, 5 percentile.
Right.
Which is, that is the crunch.